Hey guys, Ashley D. Will here, and I want to do a part 2 on the perfect spouse today. I have made some notes just about a little bit more detail about my situation, and I just want to share that if it would be helpful for you. I've been through a lot of things, and so it's my job, the Lord said, to share what He's taught me on these YouTube videos, and obviously I wouldn't be doing these if He didn't tell me to do them, so that's why I keep making them, because He told me to. So the perfect spouse is in God's economy. I'm saying you have the perfect spouse in God's economy because they're the perfect sandpaper to help conform you to the image of Christ. It doesn't mean you're never going to be attracted to another person. It doesn't mean that, you're going to have good feelings about your spouse all the time. That's okay. Go through whatever process you have to go through in this, marriage journey. And let the Lord bring people and situations and circumstances in and out of your life to teach you and to mold you and to grow you up into who you are in Christ, who you already are. He's just conforming your soul to who your spirit already is. So the worst point for me in our relationship was where my husband would not hear me. He would not hear me. I wasn't yelling at him. I wasn't being ugly. I just kept saying, to me, you feel like a bull in a china shop. And he was in denial about this, and he would not receive my perception, my words, my emotions. He was, just being very stubborn, and he wouldn't hear me. So we had talked about divorce because I was thinking about it, and, I looked up some lawyers, and I've kind of looked down that road and thought about it, and I just never really had the release to run down that road because I would have run down it if the Lord had given me the green light. We talked about our options. We talked about living separately, and I've told him, this last time when I left, I said, you need to, make these minor adjustments so that we can live together, or you're going to be paying 2 mortgages. Or worse, we can just split up. But he knows I can't stand fighting and conflict and all that. Over time, it makes me physically ill. And so, but he does know that if I'm forced to fight, that I rip the throat out and I go for the jugular and it's over. And so, he knows that, and I don't think he wanted to do that. So, I do not really have a lot of feelings for my husband right now. We're in a transitional time where I had moved out and I'm back, and the Lord is the one that really brought me back. I didn't want to move back, but where I was staying, someone else had to come and stay there for about 4 or 5 days, and I had to temporarily move out for that time. So I moved everything, it was a lot of stuff, back here. And when it was time for me to go back to the other place, it was so much stuff I was dreading having to move everything back. And at the same time, Tom and one of my daughters came to me and said, we don't want to stress you out, but we would do anything if you would just stay here for a trial period, they said. Just stay here for a trial period and see if things are different. And I said, okay, very begrudgingly, and, but the Lord arranged that. He is the one that brought me back here because I didn't want to come back, and I wasn't going to come back. So he is a rascal sometimes, but slowly I'm feeling like I'm in more of a safe environment. I don't feel like I'm getting sucker punched randomly. I don't feel like I'm being violated or emotionally manipulated. And so one thing is that my husband is a very good man. He's a good man, and he's just, how I'm retarded with mechanical things. I can't repair a car. Well, he's retarded in relationships. He just doesn't understand the basics. And so it's his learning curve has been so slow and so long and so painful for me. But see, that has taught me so much patience and endurance and long suffering. So you see how they kind of work together, the two personalities. A lot of misery you go through, but a lot of growth you go through too. So, but back to the point that he wouldn't receive my feedback. And so that is really crucial for any relationship, for you to be able to receive the other person's feedback, and especially the husband has to receive the wife's feedback, because the wife sees so many things the husband can't see, and her emotions are important, and he has to submit to the relationship, the marriage, and submit to her emotions and hear her. And he doesn't want to go around wounding his wife all the time. That is just a recipe for disaster. So when I was telling him this, that he felt like a bull in the china shop, he wouldn't listen again, and so I was going back over to the place I was staying when I had moved out, and he was just he's totally in denial, wouldn't hear it. And I I started to second guess myself. I was feeling beat down, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And I was like screaming a prayer to the Lord. I said, Lord, show me if there is something I am doing, that is just out of line. Show me. Is it me? Am I contributing to this in any way? Show me, because I don't want to contribute. And so I pulled up to the first red light. I got to. There were no other cars around, but there was one car right directly in front of me in the same lane, and it's the exact same car as one of my husband's car, his favorite one. And guess what the sticker was on the back of the car? It was a bull, a black bull. There were no words around it. I don't think it was a Red Bull. I don't know what it was, but it was a big black bull right there on the back of the car. And I started crying because the Lord was saying, he's a bull, you're not crazy, and you hold your ground. So I started crying. I needed that encouragement. So, and then this is all after we have been to counseling on and off forever. We have been around and around, and we even Skyped with Ken Nair, the author of the book, Discovering the Mind of a Woman, which my husband had read, by the way. I made him read it twice. Didn't do any good. But I've given it to a lot of other people in hopes that they will not repeat this insanity, because it's just a waste of time. It's a waste of your life. It's a waste of your marriage. And, we're not here to do this nonsense. We're here to love one another and honor the Lord, not dishonor him. So, and one of my issues was taking him back too quickly, because my mercy gift is so high. I've had to learn very strong boundaries to balance that out. And now I didn't take him back. I really wasn't going to take him back at all. But the Lord did his little mischief and got me back over here. So another issue is that I didn't want to rip our children in half. When you divorce, you rip each child in half. And I did not want to do that because I love them so much. And if I had to do it, if it was mandatory, I would definitely do it. And they would have understood and supported me. But that has always been a real touchy point with me is doing that. That would have to be, unrepentant adultery, or if he hit me or something that he would never do, or something like that. Absolutely. So I can forgive anybody for anything. When I was in law school, I went down to do some internships with this one guy, and we went to visit some inmates in prison. And one of the inmates had killed 4 people at once, and the other inmate had shot a whole family of 6 and shot the dog too. And these are people that look just like you and me. They're no different than us. They were just born in certain circumstances, put in certain circumstances, didn't know the Lord, didn't have hope, didn't have support. And, you get put on this conveyor belt of evil, and God only knows what can happen. So forgiveness has never been an issue of mine. I've always forgiven my husband and everybody else. But the turning point came in the relationship when I was living in a different place, and he started to pursue me, but not in a manipulative way, not in an overbearing way, not in a codependent way. But he pursued me with humility and with repentance. So it's like his heart posture was he was bowed down on one knee, or both knees, and he had some, a bouquet of roses in his hand, offering them to me. um, it was kind of like that. That's how it felt. He wasn't trying to get his way anymore. He wasn't trying to use the tactics of his family of origin on me anymore, which I wouldn't tolerate. But he was doing a new thing in a new spirit, but this only happened after he felt the pain and the loss and the emptiness of me gone. We didn't even have any contact for 4 days. I didn't ever want to hear his voice again. I did not. I didn't care. I would have been relieved. Okay? So this shows you how far down you can go in the ditch and just be covered in mud, and the Lord, if you submit to him, he will move on your behalf. Even in my case, I kind of didn't want him to. And he's a God of restoration. He's a God of resurrection. He loves to raise things from the dead. And he's raised me from the dead, and he's in the process of raising this marriage from the dead. And it's been little by little over time. So it's beyond annoying for me. I just like to do it, but it's been long and slow and painful. And it's grown my patience and my endurance and my long suffering, a lot. So knowing that umbrella of the Lord was over me and over my marriage and over my family and all of that did give me hope. And I do love the Lord more than I love my husband, way more. There's no comparison. So he can always default to what he wants, because I get confused and I have issues sometimes, and I can't think straight. I can't see straight. And I just say, help me, and he rescues me, because he knows I've never been loved by anybody, and I've been through a lot of different traumas on top of traumas, and he knows I've had a hard life, so he gives me special blessings sometimes. So one thing is, my husband is going to a counselor now, and he voluntarily contacted this woman that we knew, and he initiated the counseling. He has never done that before. That is like saying that he has flown to the moon. Okay, this is not even an option, but he has done this after I left. I told him the things that he needed to do so that we could put Humpty Dumpty back together. And if he wasn't willing to do it, that's fine. I'm not going to hold it against you, but there's no way I'm ever living with you again. And by the way, don't call me. That was my attitude. But he did the counseling. He did everything I said and more. See, he had to be broken of that stubborn, prideful, arrogant spirit. Just so willful. So, and another thing I did, the book that the counselor gave him is called Thanks for the Feedback. And he's reading that book, and I would like for him to read it twice, 2 or 3 or 10 times, really, because he can't get enough of that. And when things happen and he, does something, and I'm not a China doll, by the way. He's just really a bull. And I do have issues with traumas I've been through, and I am sensitive to the Holy Spirit. So those are really my only things. But I've framed things in his language to get him to understand. He's an engineer, okay? These are a special breed of people. And so I frame things in his language from work. I'll say, this relationship is unsustainable. And that went into his brain. He got that. This is unsustainable. This formula that we're working in. And I use the word formula, and I use the term data points a lot of times, because he says, I need a data point. And so I frame my feedback to him and my emotions and the things he does and the effect it has on me and the family and at work and everything else. I frame it as a data point, because data is good. Information is good. The more information you have, the more you can help the situation, and the more you can, the more good you can do. Information is good. We want information. So he is showing me up to this point, and I don't have any view into the future except the faith that I have and what the Lord can do. But he is showing me that he is man enough to be humble and to apologize sincerely and to, adjust his rudder so that we can sail together. Okay? Another thing is that the Lord broke a yoke over around me in the church service a couple of months ago. I was worshiping the Lord, and an angel came down in the middle of the sanctuary above, kind of halfway down, directly in front of me, and he drew his sword out and he brought it forward, and as he did, it extended toward me, and as it extended, a yoke appeared around me, and as the sword came down, it broke the yoke, and the yoke shattered and disappeared. He pulled his sword back up, and he went back up. It was very quick, but I remember that, and I didn't fully understand what he had broken, but over the last couple of months, I've been feeling visible, and I've never felt that before my whole life. I've always felt invisible because of different things I've been through a lot when I was a child. One trauma and then another one would happen. I could never recover from what had happened before the next thing hit me. And I think one of my just defense mechanisms and one of my internalizations of the situation was that I'm never heard, I'm never seen. So in my little mind, I must not really be here. So that was still a big part of what was going on inside me, and I didn't realize it. So the Lord has helped me to feel more visible and not to feel like a narcissist, but just be a person and be visible and be here and let it be okay. And so I'm 53 and this is happening just now. So this is a huge deal. People are starting to feel closer to me now. Before they were there and we were talking, but they just felt so far away, like almost like they weren't even real. And that's from the residue from trauma, I'm sure. So now my focus is not on what has been, but what the Lord is doing. I want to be in agreement with Him, even if I don't have feelings, even if I don't, feel like I'm really in this. He's directing me to do this. And so I'm just like, okay, you know what's best. Obviously I don't. I'm someone who would just run away and throw a rotten tomato at my husband at this point and say, forget you, buddy. You're, I'm moving on. But he's brought me back. So I'm trying to trust him, and I am in a better place where I'm feeling more settled and a little more peaceful and more, there's space here that feels safe. I don't feel like I have to be so guarded all the time. And it's because no matter what my husband does, I know that he will hear me. And so I don't feel like there's a tiger loose in the house and I'm going to get bitten or attacked randomly with no recourse if something happens. We had a setback the other day and it was uneventful because he listened to me, looked me directly in the eye, and he said, tell me what happened. Tell me what I did. I'll say, well, it wasn't that big a deal, but it could have been if he had just rejected what I said. It becomes 10 times worse when you don't listen to your wife and she has an issue. It blows it up. It throws, gasoline on the fire. And he'd been doing this for 20 years, guys. 20 years. So think about if I had obeyed my emotions during those years, y'all would be coming to visit me in a women's prison. Seriously. So my focus is not on what has been, but on what God is doing now. And on what I want, like how Proverbs 23:7 says, as a man thinks, so is he. As a woman thinks, so is she. Well, as a woman thinks her marriage is, so is it. See, I'm trying to do, it's like a quantum physics experiment for me to be able to go to a new place. And so, the Lord can do all things, and I'm in Him, so I can do all things, right? And the Lord doesn't have any problems. So if I'm in Him, I don't have any problems. I mean, technically, I have some concerns, but His scripture says He will perfect that which concerns me. So the concerns are going up to Him, and I'm focusing where I want to go. My feelings are not there, and, they can do whatever they want, and I'm going to let them emerge a little bit if they want to. I don't know that they're ever going to be, a flaming inferno again, no, but just whatever with the feelings. There's another thing I wanted to mention. I have this friend at church, and he is 80-something years old. He's an ex-Marine, and he's a widower. And we were talking one day before the service, and he was talking about the covenant, the marital covenant, and how important it is, and how deep it is, and how just imperative this covenant is to God. And he just went on and on, and he told me how he would never hurt his wife, and how he prayed over her and laid hands on her every day that he was married to her. And I just said, Patrick, stop. I can't take it. I started crying. I said, I can't take it. I appreciate it so much, and I love you to death, but just please stop. So he stopped, and he said, Ashley, are you married? Because my husband doesn't come to church with me unless it's Christmas or Easter. And I said, I am, but I'll tell you what, Patrick, if my husband dies, you're the first one I'll go on a date with. And he laughed. So we have this joke agreement that I'm going to go on a date with him. My husband dies, and I came home. I said, Tom, if you die, I'm going on a date with Patrick. He said, okay. So who knows what God's going to do. But just to let you know that you can go through anything when you focus on the Lord and you depend on Him and you submit to Him and you don't fight Him. I used to fight Him a lot, and I really don't do that too much anymore. And I'm even back at home going through this process that I really didn't want to go through. But, this marriage is not my marriage. It's the Lord's marriage. In His divine economy, He brought us two together for some crazy reason, and He's doing something. And I don't understand what it is, but it's His thing. And I'm trying to submit to Him, and I'm trying to trust Him. And I'm trying to look forward and be hopeful, because He can do all things. And He loves to raise things from the dead, to repair things, to restore things, and to grow you up through a long, painful process of whatever it may be. Okay? So this is just my situation. Part 2 of The Perfect Spouse. They don't always feel like a perfect spouse. A lot of times you think they're the worst possible choice you could have ever made. But we just do what we think is best at the time. We have no idea what we're getting ourselves into, do we? But, one day this is going to all be over, and we're going to all be together in glory, and we can just have a great time. But for now, let's keep our eyes focused on the Lord and just stay sane, focusing on Jesus, okay? You guys have a great day, and God bless you, and God bless your marriage.